Hey, what's going on, guys? This is AndrewChicken, and welcome back to another video. The final hero has just been added, and it is Victor, who is a monstrous tank hero, and he is capable of doing a lot of damage, too. He's a Frankenstein monster, and in this video, I'm going to be breaking down all of his abilities for you and showing you how he works. Now, what's kind of funny is Victor got released, and then 3 hours later, Valve immediately decided to hit this guy with a bunch of nerfs. So, I'm going to be covering the nerfed version of Victor here, but if you want to see how powerful he really was, I'm going to have a video of some gameplay for him tomorrow, and I also have a stream VOD up on my channel where you can see the original state of Victor and just how truly overpowered he really was. And he still might be really strong, honestly. He has some very powerful abilities. So yeah, if you've appreciated my coverage of all these new heroes and you want to see more content from me, I would really appreciate it if you would go down below and hit that subscribe button. It helps you stay up to date on all my latest videos, and it also helps me out a ton. So yeah, I'd really appreciate that. But let's get started by taking a look at his basic abilities here. His gun, his punch, and also take a look at his spirit scaling too. I kind of forgot to cover that for a few of the earlier heroes, although they didn't really have much, to be fair. But Victor does actually have one stat that scales with spirit power, and that is actually his health regen, which scales at a rate of 0.08 with Spirit, but he can indeed get more passive health regen by scaling Spirit. If I go ahead and grab Boundless Spirit here, you can see that, whoa, we just gained 5.5 extra regen? I mean, it's not like anything super crazy, but it is helpful, and he definitely needs it, as you're going to see when we take a look at his abilities. But yeah, his gun is a pretty standard gun. It's just a fast-firing projectile-based weapon like this, and it does have some inaccuracy to it, and it seems like it also has a bit of a projectile speed, too. If I go ahead and just fire at this wall over here, you can see that we do have a bit of spread. So, yeah, it's a little bit less accurate at those longer ranges, and he does want to be up close anyways, but it is a pretty standard gun. And, yeah, here's his melee attacks. He literally, by the way, if you pay close attention, you can see he literally takes his arm off for the heavy melee. His right arm just... yeah, he just slaps him with it. So that is really cool. But yeah, the gun and the melee are probably the least interesting part of this character because his abilities are really where it's at. So we're going to head to the sandbox here to show his first ability, and that's because, well, as you might be able to see, there's no cooldown on this. And I can't use it either. If I press the button, nothing happens. And that's because this ability is called Pain Battery, and it actively charges up when you take damage. So if I come over here and just let this Guardian hit me, it is going to start charging, and then eventually I can press the button and it will work. And it's an active ability that just needs to be charged like this. When you activate it, it'll zap all targets in front of you, dealing 100 spirit damage, and it does have really good spirit scaling too, 1.6 damage per spirit power. So yeah, I can just, and hit him with a good amount of damage. And it also has some very nice upgrades to it. The first upgrade gives us 40 extra damage, so just a harder hitting ability. The second upgrade makes it so that the enemies are slowed for 2 seconds when we hit them with this ability. And then the third upgrade is quite powerful because it allows us to heal for 20% of our missing health when we hit an enemy hero. So this allows us to sustain more damage throughout the fight. And if you want to test this in the shooting range, by the way, you can just press this no cooldown here, and it'll allow you to just charge it up automatically without actually taking damage. But yeah, now I can hit this guy, and bam, I just healed myself for a portion of my missing damage. Or my missing health, excuse me. So yeah, pretty neat first ability, and as long as you are able to take a bunch of damage, you can use this once every 2 seconds. So cooldown reduction doesn't really matter for this ability. It really matters just how much damage you can sustain in a fight. The more damage you sustain, the more pain batteries you can use, and the more damage you will deal. His second ability is called Jumpstart, and this is actually one of the abilities that got hit with a lot of nerfs, and it still looks to be pretty good. So this is a charged ability. You'll notice on the top right we have 1 charge, and we have a 3-second cooldown between charges up here, and it has a 4-second duration. What this does is it makes you deal spirit damage to yourself, which, by the way, this does charge up the battery. So I press that, and it gives the battery some charge. And what you get in return for this self-damage is a bunch of regeneration as well as some movement speed, which decays over time. So we take 15% of our current health as damage here, and then we get some flat health regen, and this also scales with spirit. So we get 100 HP regen, and we get plus 1.8 per spirit power, and this used to be 2 per spirit power. Really powerful, really insane. And we also get 4 meters per second of movement speed, which is really good too. So we can use this to heal up and also get that movement speed so we can go in and chase down targets faster. Or alternatively, if we need to escape a fight, we can heal back up some health as long as we have, some health left in the tank and a charge, of course, then we can get out of dodge like that. So, yeah, it's a pretty powerful tool, and the upgrades make it even more powerful, especially the third upgrade. So, for the first upgrade, you get 1.5 meters per second extra movement speed, bringing our total up to 5.5, very nice. Second upgrade gives us flat 50 health regen, which is also very nice, but it's not that much when you actually compare it to what you can get with spirit scaling. If I go ahead and buy rapid recharge here, you'll notice that we're getting 70 just from one spirit item. That's already really good because it takes us from 1 charge to 3. And so, yeah, that's pretty insane. We get so much healing from this. And then the third upgrade, this is where it gets really powerful. We shave 4 seconds off the cooldown. This used to be 8, by the way. And it also purges all non-ultimate debuffs on casts. So that's right, for the tier 3 of this ability, you get a free debuff remover that you can use at any point, and Rapid Recharge allows you to use it thrice in a row. So you literally just have a more powerful debuff remover in your base kit. Rapid Recharge thus becomes your debuff remover. So that is really powerful, especially because, remember, one of the debuffs in this game is anti-heal, and this guy does not want to be affected by anti-heal. So you can actually cleanse the anti-heal and then get the full effect of your total health regen, which is utterly ludicrous. So, yeah, that is very, very powerful. His third ability, however, is utterly insane, and it is a lot of fun to use. This is the Aura of Suffering. You unleash pain, dealing spirit damage over time to both enemies and yourself. And, yeah, you do 100% self-damage, by the way, so you're taking just as much damage as the enemies are, and you have to build accordingly for that. But the damage you deal is insane. It's absolutely insane. So the damage will increase the longer the ability is channeled up to a maximum amount. It starts at about 19 DPS. Let me actually reset my hero here. It starts at actually 15 DPS, and it can ramp up to 75 max DPS, and both of those numbers will scale with Spirit. And yeah, it looks like this. We turn the aura on, and we start dealing damage to the enemies, but also dealing damage to ourselves. And we can use our other abilities while we're channeling this to try and keep ourselves topped off. And this Aura of Suffering will also charge up our battery. So we can use the pain battery while using this for even more damage. And you might be wondering, well, why would I ever use this ability if I take equal amounts of damage as the enemies? Well, that's because you can build for it, and you can actually lifesteal off this because it's a bunch of spirit damage, so you can get spirit lifesteal here, and that'll make it a bit easier to sustain, and you can also get spirit damage reduction on yourself to make it so that you take less damage. And if you're hitting enough enemies, and you've got some minions nearby, or maybe a guardian nearby, or something like that, you can actually sustain the damage pretty consistently while dealing a ton of damage to the surrounding enemies. So I usually like to build for like spirit lifesteal, Spirit Resilience, I get that online pretty early, and I also like Scourge. This has such a good natural synergy with it because it gives 40% Spirit Resist while active, and it's also a kill aura. So you just have 2 kill auras stacking on top of each other. And Scourge also helps you lifesteal, and look at that, my health is actually going up right now, at least for now. So that is pretty crazy. You can definitely build around it, and this turns into an insane ability. It does so much damage. It's the bulk of the damage on this guy. So let's look at the upgrades now. He has some really good upgrades, too. The first upgrade causes enemies to receive a 30% slow while they're inside the aura, making it easier to hit them. The second upgrade adds 10 minimum DPS and 50 maximum DPS, so that's a lot more damage for you to take, but also to dish out to the enemies. And then the third upgrade causes all enemies inside the aura to take 13% extra damage. This is a global damage modifier, so notice for a second, if I shoot this guy right now, I do about 12 damage per shot. If they're in the aura, I go up to 14 damage per shot. And this also affects your teammates. So if you have someone in the aura right now, and then a lash on your team slams down on this guy, he's going to do 13% more damage. Let's say you have a Haze on your team, and you have someone in the aura like this. Haze is going to do 13% more damage with her crazy weapons to this guy. So this is a very powerful damage amp. And obviously it also affects your Aura of Suffering, so that's just 13% more damage on that too. It is a really good upgrade. This is just... it does so much damage, but you have to be able to sustain it, and you also have to get up close to the enemies and sustain their damage too, so you really want to build for tank items on this guy. So with all this self-damage and all of this up-close and personal action, you might be thinking to yourself, well, dang, it's going to be a little easy to die on this guy, especially if I get carried away. Well, lucky for you, his ultimate is just the tool you need. This is called Shocking Reanimation, and it makes it so that you will reanimate after taking lethal damage, dealing spirit damage and applying a stun to nearby enemies after a short delay. So, let me kill myself! And now, I'm gonna come back and explode and stun this guy, and I come back with 60% of my health. They nerfed this from 100% on release, by the way, so yeah, you're not going to come back at full health, but you're also going to come back with a pretty solid tank of health, and you're going to be ready to do it all over again and just destroy the enemies. So this is a pretty fun ultimate, and it allows you to get away with a lot of nonsense. You can make so much space for your team by doing this, and it enables you to just really chase down the enemies and be an unrelenting force. And the upgrades are... they're alright. So the first upgrade gives you 25% fire rate and 10 spirit damage per bullet when you revive, so it'll make you a little bit more powerful when you're coming out of your ultimate. However, he's not really much of a gun hero, so I guess the fire rate doesn't matter too much, and the damage per bullet does scale with spirit at least, so that's kind of nice, but it is overall very low damage per bullet. The second upgrade gives you 40% rebirth health, so now you're up to 100% whenever you rebirth. This actually used to be, since you were at 100% already, this used to be minus 20 seconds of cooldown reduction, but they nerfed the cooldown and they also got rid of this, so we're looking at, I believe, a 190 second cooldown? Yeah, I forgot Scourge actually gave cooldown reduction real quick, so if I reset my hero, yeah, we're up to a 190 second cooldown on this. And then the tier 3 gives you plus 200 damage, and plus 3 meters of radius, which makes it easier to hit your ultimate, and when you do hit your ultimate, it's gonna hit like a truck. Wha-bam! Boom, he takes 400 damage and is stunned, and then you can blast him like this, and... I mean, yeah, that's not a terrible amount of extra spirit damage, I guess, but your main ability is still going to be your Aura of Suffering. So as you can see, Victor is a character who uses his health as a resource to deal a ton of damage to the enemies. He likes to get up close, sustain a ton of damage, and keep enemies in the Aura as long as he can, so he can kill them. And if he dies in the process, well, that's okay, because he can just come back and do it all over again. And by the way, this aura does persist through your rebirth, so, you know, that's pretty fun too. And, yeah, he is a powerhouse of a hero when you build him properly. So, let's take a look at some good upgrades for this guy before we end off the video. I'm going to have a more comprehensive build tomorrow, so make sure you're subscribed for that. But just day one, some really good upgrades for him. A couple of them I already went over. Spirit Lifesteal, you're absolutely going to want. Spirit Resilience, mandatory in my opinion, to maintain your Aura of Suffering. Scourge as well, super huge, just amazing natural synergy with the Aura of Suffering. It mitigates the self-damage while adding a massive lump of extra damage onto this thing, so huge item there. And you can also get some items that'll further boost your sustain. Healing Booster is amazing because it boosts the healing from Jumpstart and your lifesteal as well, very nice. And Spirit Scaling is also pretty good on this character because all of his abilities have really good Spirit Scaling. And you can improve that up to Boundless if you want. Extra Charge and Rapid Recharge as well are phenomenal for Jumpstart because the more Jumpstarts you have, the more opportunities you have to cleanse debuffs and also the more healing you're going to get. And that movement speed buff is really important too because it enables you to chase down enemies and attack them just like this. Without the movement speed buff, he is actually a little slow, so you're definitely going to want to use this as often as you can. I also found that Restorative Locket is a pretty good item on him. I was testing this earlier, and it gives a lot of extra healing in the early to mid-game, which you definitely want, and it also provides you 6% Spirit Resist while restoring 2 stamina points, which again helps with his ability to chase down targets. Because yeah, if you use a bunch of stamina trying to chase a target and then they still run away, you can pop the Restorative Locket and then you'll still be able to lay chase to them. Cold Front as well also seems pretty interesting for its 60% movement slow to make it even harder to escape the Aura of Suffering. However, if if you do go for an early upgrade on the Pain Battery as well as the Aura of Suffering Slow, then you might have enough slow to not need the Cold Front, but I still find that the stats are good enough. You know, it adds a bit of extra damage, it adds that chunky slow, and 6% Spirit Resist, again, is very nice. Escalating Exposure is another really good luxury item on this character, I think, especially if the enemies have a lot of spirit damage, because, well, obviously, he does a ton of damage over time. And this also gives 20% additional spirit resist. So if the enemies are stacking a lot of spirit damage, and you want to sustain your Aura of Suffering, and you want to do a bunch of damage to them, this just helps with all of that. It's pretty crazy. So, yeah, I mean, with all the spirit resist right now, we are rocking 44% spirit resist before I pop Scourge, and before I get below 30% HP. And now I can activate this, activate my Scourge, we're looking at 66% spirit damage reduction, and just notice how easy it is to maintain my health. I'm just spirit lifestealing, and look at the damage, by the way. That's insane. And now my aura has ramped up to its maximum capabilities, and we are starting to take a bit more damage here. But that's why we're just able to heal ourselves with Jumpstart and all of our other healing tools. We would have Restorative Locket as well healing us, and we could also buy Infuser, and then watch our health go back up. So that's going to be another very good item too. And as long as you can keep the enemies in your aura, then you are going to be an unstoppable force. Finally, something potentially interesting that I haven't actually tested is Refresher, because, well, you can refresh your ultimate, and then you could potentially die twice in a fight, and still be able to come back and kill the enemies. And another thing that's very important to know is that Rejuvenator works just fine on this character. So if I go ahead and kill myself here, it'll activate my ultimate first, and then my Rejuve will kick in if I die a second time, and then I come back like this. So you don't have to worry about wasting a Rejuvenator with this character if your ultimate is active. One thing I must warn you about, though, a lot of people have been asking about this item. Cheat Death is awful on Victor. Let me show you why. So Cheat Death has a couple of stats that are important. When you die, you will instead become temporarily death immune on a 100-second cooldown, but because you're death immune, you have 70% damage reduction and 70% healing reduction. And that healing reduction is really the kicker, because Cheat Death and his ultimate activate at the same time. So if I go ahead and kill myself here, Cheat Death is activated during my ultimate, and look at how little health I spawn in with. It reduces the healing that I get from my ultimate by 70%. So, instead of spawning in at 100% health, I only spawn in at 30% health. That's ridiculous. That's terrible. So, never buy Cheat Death on Victor because it actively harms your ultimate. If you want to spend 6,000 souls to make your character objectively a million times worse, then be my guest, I guess, but yeah, no, sadly no synergy there. It's a really bad item. Maybe they'll fix it in the future, and then maybe that would be overpowered? I don't know. But yeah, don't buy Cheat Death on Victor as it stands. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this video. If you guys enjoyed and found this video to be helpful, then make sure to drop a like down below and subscribe for more content from me. I'm gonna be covering some Victor up here over this weekend, so I'm really looking forward to that because of the few games I've played of him, he has a really fun playstyle, and I've really been enjoying him. And yeah, we're gonna have even more content here, testing wacky builds with all the new heroes, so make sure you're subscribed for that. But yeah, with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. I will see you all next time. Peace out.